If you're here right now, I think I know something about where you are. Not physically. Maybe you're surrounded by people. Maybe you have a full house, a busy schedule, a phone that buzzes all day. But somewhere underneath all of that, there's a quiet that feels wrong. A kind of alone that doesn't have a simple explanation. You smile. You show up. You keep going. And nobody really knows. I want you to stay with me for the next few minutes, not because I have a formula that makes this go away, but because I believe something is going to shift in you before this is over. Not in your circumstances. In the place inside you where this weight is sitting right now. I know this. Not because I read about it. There was a period in my life where I was surrounded by work, by people, by noise, and I had never felt more unseen. I would sit across from someone at a table and think, you don't know me. You know my name. You know my face. But you don't know what I'm carrying right now. And I never said it, because it felt like something was wrong with me for feeling it. There's something I want to bring to you today. Something I found in the middle of that season that changed the way I understood what it means to be seen. It didn't come from a sermon. It came from a moment of being completely honest with God about what I was actually feeling. Stay with me. Let's bring this to Him together. Before we go any further, just one quick thing. If this is the kind of message you want to come back to, subscribe. I bring a new prayer or reflection here every single day. Something to hold on to when the weight shows up again. And if this is already reaching something in you, a like helps other people who are carrying the same thing find their way here. Okay, let's go into this together. There's a kind of loneliness that nobody talks about. Not the kind where you're physically by yourself. Not the kind that goes away when someone walks into the room. This is the kind you carry into a crowded room, into a family dinner, into a church pew on a Sunday morning. You're there. You're present. You're even smiling. And somewhere underneath all of that, you feel completely invisible. Like nobody in that room actually knows what's happening inside you. Like if you disappeared tomorrow, people would notice you were gone, but nobody would really know what they lost. I'm not talking about something rare. The World Health Organization has said that about 1 in 6 people around the world experience loneliness. 1 in 6. And what the research keeps showing, what actually surprises people when they hear it, is that most of those people aren't alone. They're surrounded by others. They have families, jobs, routines, people who call them by name, and still. Because the loneliness that hurts the most isn't about how many people are around you. It's about whether any of them really see you. And most of us have learned, quietly over time, not to say that out loud. Because how do you tell someone I feel invisible when they're standing right in front of you? How do you explain that you're exhausted from smiling? That you go home at the end of the day and the silence feels heavier than it should? That sometimes you look at your phone and there are messages, and you still feel like no one has actually checked on you? So you don't say it. You keep going. You tell yourself it'll pass. I know this. Not because I read about it. There was a period in my life where I was surrounded by work, by people, by noise, and I had never felt more unseen. I would sit across from someone at a table and think, you don't know me. You know my name. You know my face. But you don't know what I'm carrying right now, and I never said it, because it felt like something was wrong with me for feeling it. That's the thing about this kind of loneliness. It comes with shame, like you should be grateful for the people around you, and you are, but the feeling won't go away, and now you feel guilty on top of feeling alone. That's the part nobody talks about. And here's what I want you to know before we go any further. You are not broken for feeling this. This is one of the most human things a person can carry, and you are not carrying it because something went wrong with you. But there is something most of us do when this feeling gets heavy, something that feels like the right response, the natural thing to do, that actually makes it worse. And it took me longer than I want to admit to see it. When the loneliness gets heavy enough, most of us do the same thing. We reach out. We text someone. We scroll through our phones looking for something, a message, a notification, anything that says someone is thinking about you right now. We make plans we don't really want to keep just to not be alone with the feeling. We stay busy. We fill the silence with noise. TV, music, podcasts, anything that replaces the quiet that feels too heavy to sit in. And if we're people of faith, we bring it to God too, but in a specific way. We pray for the loneliness to go away. We ask God to send someone, to change the circumstances, to fix the feeling. God, just make this stop. I did all of this, for longer than I want to say. I remember filling my evenings with anything that would keep me from sitting still. If I was still, I'd feel it. And I didn't want to feel it. So I kept moving. I kept the phone in my hand. I kept looking for someone to check on me, to say the right thing, to make me feel less invisible for a few minutes. And sometimes it worked, for a few minutes. Then the silence came back. And it was heavier than before. Because here's the thing about that approach. It treats the loneliness like a problem to be solved by the right person saying the right thing at the right time. And when that doesn't happen, when nobody texts back, when the plans fall through, when the prayer seems to go unanswered, you feel it twice. You feel the loneliness. And then you feel the disappointment on top of it. I kept thinking, if I just had the right people around me, this would go away. So I kept looking for that. I kept waiting for it. And I kept ending up in the same place. What I didn't understand, what took me a long time to finally see, is that I was trying to heal something deep with something that only reaches the surface. I was looking for people to fill a space that was never meant to be filled by people alone. And the loneliness kept coming back, not because something was wrong with the people around me, but because I was bringing the question to the wrong place. Now, I'm not saying don't reach out to people. That's not the point. Connection matters. Community matters. But when that's the only move, or when that's the whole strategy, we miss something. We keep going to a well that was never deep enough for this particular thirst. And to understand why, I need to show you something. Because when I finally understood the real reason this doesn't work, it changed not just how I dealt with loneliness. It changed how I prayed, how I showed up to God, how I understood what it means to be known. Here's what I finally understood. There are two different things that we call loneliness, and we treat them like they're the same problem. But they're not. The first one is social. It's the absence of people. And yes, that kind responds to connection. You reach out, someone shows up, it gets better. That's real. But the second kind is different. It's not about the number of people around you. It's about something deeper, the feeling that nobody truly knows you. Not your name, not your face, not your history. You. The version of you that exists underneath all the roles you play and all the things you're supposed to be. And that kind of loneliness doesn't respond to more people. Because the problem was never the number of people. I think about something David wrote, not in a calm moment, but in the middle of one of the darkest stretches of his life. He wrote, "You have searched me and known me. Before I sleep, before I wake, before I say a word, you know it. There is nowhere I can go where you are not already there." He wasn't writing that as a theological statement. He was writing it because he needed to remember it, because he felt it slipping. And what struck me, when I really sat with that, was the word known. Not seen from a distance, not observed. Known. The way you know someone you've sat with for years, the way you know the weight behind a look, the fear behind a silence. There's also a woman in the Old Testament, Hagar. She's in the desert, alone, running, and God meets her there, in the middle of nowhere, and she gives him a name that nobody else ever gave him. She calls him the God who sees me, not the God who rules, not the God who judges, the God who sees. That's what she needed in that moment, not a crowd, not an explanation, just to be seen. And here's what I didn't understand for a long time. When I kept running to people to fill that feeling, I wasn't doing anything wrong in reaching out. The mistake was in what I was actually asking for. I was asking people to do something only God can do. I was asking them to know me the way only He knows, to see me the way only He sees. And people can't do that. Not fully. Not the way that reaches the part of you that aches at 2 in the morning. So when they inevitably couldn't give me what I was looking for, when the conversation ended and the feeling came back, I thought the problem was that I hadn't found the right people yet. So I kept looking. But the well was never going to be deep enough, because I was thirsty for something that well was never built to hold. When I finally understood that, I didn't feel relief right away. Honestly, my first feeling was something closer to frustration, because it's so simple, and nobody had ever said it to me that plainly. I had heard God is with you 1,000 times, but I had never really understood what it meant to bring this specific ache, this invisible weight, directly to Him. Not as a last resort, not after trying everything else, as the first move. That's what changes everything, and I want to show you exactly what that looks like, what it actually means to bring your loneliness to God instead of away from it. But before we get there, just one moment. Before I show you what that looks like in prayer, I want to tell you about something I put together for exactly this. It's called 30 Days of Faith, a guided prayer devotional. 30 days of prayers and reflections, each one written for the moments when the weight shows up and you don't know what to say to God. Moments exactly like this one, because one video helps. But 30 days of coming back, 30 days of showing up even when you don't feel like it, that's where something starts to shift. Not just in how you pray, in how you carry the days. It's a PDF and audio, narrated by me, the same voice you're hearing right now. So it feels like this, like someone sitting with you, not talking at you. The link is in the description. It's called 30 Days of Faith, and it's there waiting for you whenever you're ready. Okay? Let's get into what actually works. Here's what works. Not as a technique, not as a spiritual discipline to add to a list. As a shift in how you understand what you're actually doing when you pray in a moment like this. The move that changes everything is this. Stop asking God to take the loneliness away and start bringing the loneliness to Him. I know that might sound like a small difference. It's not. It's the whole thing. When I was in that season, feeling invisible, filling every silence, asking God to fix the feeling, I was treating Him like a solution to a problem, like a repair service. God, this is broken. Come fix it. And then I'd wait, and the feeling would still be there, and I'd wonder why it wasn't working. But here's what I missed. I wasn't bringing my loneliness to God. I was reporting it to Him from a distance. There's a difference between saying, God, I feel alone, please help, and actually sitting down in the middle of that feeling and letting Him into it. Fully. Without the exit request attached. Think about Hagar. She didn't ask God to transport her out of the desert. She was in the desert when He met her. And the name she gave Him, El Roi, the God who sees me, didn't come from a moment of relief. It came from a moment of being completely exposed, completely without options, and discovering that she was not invisible to Him even there. Even there. That's the key word. Not after. Not once things improve. There. In the desert. In the feeling. In the place you least expect to be found. David understood this too. The psalm that begins, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's not a man who lost his faith. That's a man who was angry, devastated, confused, and still talking to God about it. Still directing his pain toward God instead of away from Him. And by the end of that same psalm, something shifted. Not the circumstances. Him. The act of bringing the honest, unfiltered weight to God. That itself was the movement. And then there's Peter. After the denial, after the worst moment of his life, the moment he said 3 times, I don't know that man, he went back to fishing. Back to what he knew. Probably convinced that the distance between him and Jesus was now permanent. That he had broken something that couldn't be fixed. And Jesus came to him. On the shore. Not waiting for Peter to get himself together first. Not requiring an explanation or an apology before approach. He just came. Made breakfast. Sat down with him. That is who you are bringing your loneliness to. Not a God who is waiting for you to feel better before he shows up. Not a God who needs you to have it together before you're worth his attention. The God who comes to the shore, who meets Hagar in the desert, who already knows every word before it's on your tongue, and comes anyway. So the shift is this. Instead of praying, God, take this away, you pray, God, I'm in this. I don't want to be here, but I'm not going through it without you. You stop trying to use prayer as an exit and start using it as a presence. You bring the ache, the invisibility, the weight of being unknown, and you lay it in front of the only one who has ever actually fully known you. That's not a small thing. That's not a consolation prize because the circumstances didn't change. That is the thing. Because when you stop running from the feeling and bring it directly to God, something begins to shift. Not the loneliness itself, maybe, but who you are inside it. You go from invisible to known, not because someone finally saw you, because you remembered who has been seeing you all along. And once you feel that, once that lands, the loneliness doesn't disappear, but it loses its grip, because you are no longer alone in it. Now, I want to show you what this looks like in practice, not as an idea, as something you can actually do today, in the next few minutes, right where you are. Let me walk you through exactly how to do this. 3 steps. Simple ones. But I want to be honest with you. Simple doesn't always mean easy. The first time I did this, it felt strange. Almost forced. Like I was following instructions for something that was supposed to be natural, and I almost stopped because of that. Don't stop because of that. Stay with it. Step 1. Stop and name it. Before you pray, before you say anything to God, sit down with the feeling for a moment, not to fix it, not to analyze it, just to name it honestly. And I mean honestly. Not the version you'd say out loud in a room full of people, the real one. I feel invisible. I feel like nobody actually knows me. I feel like I could disappear and nobody would notice the part of me that matters. Say it out loud if you can. There's something about hearing your own voice say the true thing that makes it real in a different way. If you can't say it out loud, write it. 1 sentence. The most honest sentence you can find for what you're actually carrying right now. This step matters more than it seems, because most of us go to God with a cleaned-up version of the feeling. We summarize it, we soften it, we make it more presentable. And what I learned is that God doesn't need the presentable version. He already knows the real one. But you need to say the real one, because that's what you're actually bringing into the room. Step 2. Bring it to God without the exit request. This is the step that changes everything, and it's also the hardest one to do right. You're going to pray, but not the prayer you're used to. Not God, please take this away, or God, please send someone. Instead, something like this. God, I feel alone. Not just today. In a way that goes deeper than I know how to explain. I'm not asking you to fix it right now, I'm just asking you to be here. In this, with me. Because I don't want to go through this without you. That's it. That's the prayer. It doesn't have to be longer. It doesn't have to be more eloquent. What matters is that you're bringing the actual feeling, not the exit from it. You're not using prayer as an escape hatch. You're using it as a door you walk through with the weight still on your shoulders. When I started praying this way, not asking for the feeling to go, but asking God to be present inside it, the first thing I noticed wasn't peace. It was the absence of that specific aloneness. Like the room got slightly less empty. Not because the circumstances changed, because I stopped being the only one in the room with it. Step 3. Stay in the silence. After you pray, don't rush to the next thing. Sit for a minute. Maybe 2. No phone, no music. Just the silence and whatever is in it. I know this is the step that most people skip, because the silence feels uncomfortable, especially when you're already in a painful place. Adding more quiet seems like the wrong move. But here's what I found. The silence after an honest prayer is different from the silence that felt heavy before it. It's not empty in the same way. Something shifted in it, even if you can't name what. You don't need to feel a dramatic change. You don't need to hear anything. You don't need the loneliness to be gone. You just need to stay long enough to notice that you're not actually alone in that room. That's the whole practice. Name it. Bring it without asking for the exit. Stay in the silence. You can do this anywhere. In your car before you go inside. In bed before you sleep. In the 5 minutes before the rest of the house wakes up. You don't need a special place or a special posture or a special time. You just need the honest thing and a willingness to bring it directly to the one who already knows it anyway. Now, I want to give you something simple to hold on to. A way to start this today, not eventually, not when you feel ready. Today, here's your plan. And I mean that literally. I want you to leave this video with something specific in your hand. Not a list of 10 things. Not a 30-day transformation program that requires a perfect schedule and perfect discipline. Just the next right thing. Today, one thing. Before this day is over, find 5 minutes. That's the whole ask. 5 minutes where you're not doing anything else. Sit down. Could be your bedroom, your car, your kitchen table after everyone else has gone to sleep. Doesn't matter where. What matters is that you stop moving for 5 minutes and do the 3 steps. Name it honestly, out loud or in writing, the real version of what you're carrying. Bring it to God without asking for the exit. God, I feel this. Be here with me in it. And then stay in the silence for a minute or two. Just stay. That's today. That's the whole plan for today. If 5 minutes feels like too much, if today has been that kind of day, then make it 2 minutes. One honest sentence to God before you sleep. I feel alone. Be here. That's enough. That's a real beginning. I'm not asking for perfect. Perfect is not what this is about. For the next few days, keep it simple. Same practice, same 3 steps. Different day, different version of the feeling, but the same movement toward God instead of away from Him. What I found is that the first day feels strange, like you're doing something mechanical, and that's normal. Don't let that stop you. The second day is a little different. Something in you starts to recognize the movement, like a path that's been walked once and is slightly more familiar the second time. By the 3rd or 4th day, you're not thinking about the steps anymore. You're just doing it. And somewhere in there, quietly, without announcement, something starts to shift. Not the loneliness necessarily, but your relationship to it. You stop being ambushed by it. You start knowing what to do when it shows up. The one thing to protect, if nothing else. If the days get busy and the practice gets interrupted, and they will, because that's life, come back to the minimum. One honest sentence, one moment of stopping, one decision to bring it to God instead of carrying it alone. That's the floor. You can always do that, even on the worst days, even when you have nothing else. I've had seasons where that was all I could manage, and I can tell you, from the other side of those seasons, it was enough. Not because it felt like enough in the moment, but because showing up imperfectly, consistently, is what builds something over time, not the perfect prayer, the persistent one. You have what you need to start today. You know what the problem is. You know why what you were doing before wasn't working, and you know what to do instead. That's more than most people have when they begin, so don't wait for a better day. Don't wait until the loneliness gets worse or until you feel more spiritually ready. Start with what you have today, because what you have today is already enough to take one step toward the God who has been seeing you all along. That's all this ever was. One step, and then another, and you are not taking it alone. Before you go, I want to say one more thing. If you made it to the end of this, if you stayed through all of it, I don't think that was an accident. I think something in you needed to hear that you are not forgotten. And I hope that landed. I hope something in you feels even slightly less invisible than when you clicked on this video. If it did, I want to ask you something. Is there someone in your life who is carrying this right now? Someone who smiles and shows up and keeps going, and you can see if you look closely that something is heavy underneath? Send this to them. Not with a long explanation, just send it. Sometimes the most important thing we can do for someone who feels invisible is say, I thought of you. I saw you. That's a form of prayer too. And if you want to keep going, If you want 30 more days of coming back to this place, the 30 Days of Faith devotional is in the description. 30 days of prayers written for exactly the moments when the weight shows up and you don't know what to say. It's there when you're ready. If this channel has been giving you something, subscribe if you haven't yet. There's a new prayer or message here every single day. Something to come back to, something to hold on to. And leave a comment if you want, even just one word. Tell me where you are today. I read them, and this community of people who show up here every day, they see each other too. You are not forgotten. I'll see you tomorrow.